who's worked his socks off on the indies, and people knew that, and so it brought a little bit of realism to it. Whether you really deep down believe that or not, it still got you in the moment. And it's rare that a heel these days can be hated. It's difficult with everything. We talk about recently on our podcast. What's his name? The current champion now, Tommaso. So. There are not many guys now, Matt, that you really do not like, unless just Roman Reigns, of course. Seems to go a long way, but guys that are meant to be a heel. It's difficult these days with everything. But Tommaso Ciampa does a brilliant job currently of doing that. That's for sure.
God. I say, Baron Corbin is another example to me of the fact that WWE still can produce and make homegrown talent. He was drafted in. Like I said, they did choose him from the football realms, and they came in and they built on his skills and taught him the business. And I think he picked it up very well. And actually, if they were to ever let him go, it would be a huge mistake, because he could take these skills and apply them to any other company and be a top star. So I think they've done a great job in that. I know we see a lot of the Ring of Honor stars, TNA stars jumping over to NXT now, but there's no doubt they do have the ability to build their own stars.
Yep, no, good point on that. And this was a time where we had a mixture of both. We had some indie guys, a lot of independent wrestlers, but we also had fresh, untapped talent from off the indie scene. Everything at this time, and still is in a lot of ways, worked in almost harmony with each other. Like, no matter what background you were coming from, it was always about developing you to that next stage. You forget as well. Sorry, mate, go on.
That's an innovative move, isn't it? Where he does that power bomb and straight into the submission.
Yeah.
That is classic Joe there, and straight into it's the crossface. He used to do it to an ST20, I'm pretty sure. But he's very good at this, and a very good chain wrestler as well. And I know a lot of people mock him because he's a bit on the chubby side, but that doesn't really matter these days. And I know a lot of people like that big guy physique, especially if you're Vince McMahon. But when someone's got talent, you just got to accept it and give it to them. People are all different shapes and sizes, and some people can work out for days and just not.
Well, he's Samoan. What do you expect? This guy.
Yeah.
It's in his genes, if you will.
Putting it up that way, though, that's what makes me give massive respect to the Usos. They train so hard, and it's got to be so hard to keep that weight off and keep that lean.
Yeah, it is. But Joe's never been one to ever look at shape. Even at his biggest, he's still been able to move so well. He's calmed it down, but he's calmed it down to be sensible. Because if you carry on doing the things he was doing in Ring of Honor, his career just wouldn't last that long. You'd be in sort of a Daniel Bryan situation. But he now is he's just sort of. You'd say he's had his prime, but in a lot of ways, this is his prime now, because he's got more years to go now and kind of make up. You can't say any more fairer than that to someone like like AJ Styles at the minute, who just never seems to get overdone by his age or anything like that. He just seems to always gonna keep going. As we see now, this is a decent match, very physical match between these two guys.
Yeah, I really like that point you brought up just now about how they tone it back a little bit in the WWE kind of environment. And when I look at certain wrestlers like Joe and like Kevin Owens, and it does frustrate people because people like Kevin Owens are capable of so much more, because we saw it as soon as he made his debut against John Cena. He was still doing those explosive moves from the top and everything, but there is no doubt those kind of risks do shorten your career. So if you're a fan of those kind of wrestlers, you should respect it's better for them because they don't have to put it out all the time like they would say Ring of Honor or TNA and that, because the fan base is there, the fan base is strong, and almost at times WWE like restrict these moves to make them more impactful. Like when they actually happen, you should believe that will be the end of the match.
Yeah, no, that's right. You want to bring those kind of moves out at the big pay-per-views and WrestleMania. I mean, that's your one where you're going to go balls out to the ground. But I mean, doing it every night, it's a bit like the Van Damme effect I was talking about earlier. You just end up exposing everything, and then fans become a little bit like same old, like they expect it, and that's the problem, and it doesn't become unique anymore. I felt like Rey Mysterio had a phase like that as well, where people were just like, he just does that every night, no big deal. Like, believe it or not, towards the end Rey Mysterio was getting stale because of that, and it was almost like you wanted to say to him, like someone to pull him to one side and say, like, hold back just a bit more until the pay-per-views or something, because they're becoming all too familiar with everything. As we see Joe, like
another classic moves from Joe.
Yeah. And these two,
that would be vintage Joe.
Yeah, really physical, these two with each other. You can tell they're laying it in a bit thicker. But this was like your sort of grudge match of the night, if you will. This was like the promo, that's what it was kind of showing you. And Joe at this point, he really didn't have much to prove, but he kind of did to that new audience, I guess, that hadn't seen him, just in case there weren't people that saw him anyway. But, he kind of knew that was going to happen. I mean, Joe, out of everybody down here, he ended up sticking around for a lot longer, Matt, than any of us thought, didn't he? I think we thought he'd be a quick, he'd be up there fast, but even guys like Owens were there before him, so he did.
That's another point. I've never really believed it myself, but how big of an effect do you reckon this is? Like WWE, when they bring in someone like Joe, or they bring in a new wrestler, like even like we're seeing with Bobby Lashley, where he doesn't get pushed to the top straight away, and AJ, like a prime example, had to pay a year, to get to where he is. Like, do you think there's an actual audience that doesn't know about these people? That just they've lived in a bubble and only watch WWE's products?
Exactly.
Because for some reason WWE seems to think along those lines.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's strange sometimes they think that, and yet when Joe come in, his merch sales were through the roof. People, he was selling more than most of the main roster guys, and that's certainly what caught a lot of attention to people. So, when you have your top selling out that much, you're going to be popular. You've got to be popular, at this point. But yeah, it was a big deal, I think, for him to keep his name as well, because even like Kevin Owens had to change his name, and he was so familiar with that Ring of Honor crowd as well, almost the same character, that yet had to change his name,
Yeah, pretty much. But it's not a bad marketing idea. KO makes sense, I suppose. You can get some good merch out of that.
Yeah, he certainly has done. Yeah, so he got mine. As we see this now, this submission, it was well done there as well. Like the way he tucked him in there, really smooth. Transition for it, and Corbin is a big guy.
Good foresight for Joe to actually have this. He's had this move for years. Before probably the takeoff of the UFC, so he's really innovative with that, because he picked a legit move where no one's going to question whether that's going to knock you out or not.
And there you go, Samoa Joe victorious. I remember I was in the moment of this. I was cheering. I was happy that Joe won here. But yeah, these two laid it in thick, as you can see from the aftermath, how much these two put into that. The very physical battle, a different kind of match to a lot of the others on the night thus far. And they did a very good job, a very good storytelling job of what I think they wanted to get across. I think they would go on and have at least 1 or 2 more matches, I believe, Matt, after this. I think the feud kind of continued a little bit longer.
Oh yeah, definitely had the kind of chemistry to continue this.
Do you remember what happened with him at your NXT Takeover in London that year?
Actually that escapes me. I kind of remember more about this one than I do about the one that I actually went to in London. If I was to rate the two, I would pick... No, of course, I'm going to pick this one as my favourite one.
Yeah. So there you go, Joe winning that match. Yeah, properly into it, and the fans definitely knew who he was. That's for sure. This was a good showing, good night. There we go, Sarge Slaughter, and there is Oscar, and that Ric Flair, the Nature Boy.
Was Oscar debuted at this point, or was this little?
I think they just signed her. I'm not, because they're calling her Kana. So they hadn't changed their name at that point, Matt. And there you go, another couple as well there, Matt. They're already on for the roster, of course. So yeah, it's crazy the amount of talent, Matt, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah,
not even involved.
Because we didn't see them earlier.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, so they weren't even debuted at that point. In crazy for Oscar, considering that huge run she went on in NXT. Byron Saxton's suit does nothing for me. Jesus Christ.
Oh, he loves it. Oh, wow, yes.
I forgot this. I totally forgot this, but yes, of course she came out.
I did totally forget this as well.
Yeah, she came out because this was... I mean, I guess in a lot of ways, Matt, this was... I know that they go on, she's announced the Divas Revolution and the women's, but if we're being honest, Matt, for me, I'm going to be totally legit here with where did it all start from with the women? How did they get, to be, as well established and, thrown into the limelight like they were? And for me, it starts with this. It starts with the Ronda Rousey effect from UFC. It starts from how much merch she was selling, and you can have a sports personality who isn't, your typical blonde woman, big bust and all the rest of it. And then it also stemmed from this match here, Matt, in my opinion, because this is where it really came from. And nobody, even though she came out here, this was not expected to be as good as it was, Matt. Like, at all.
Yeah. Certain situations you have to have like a multitude of effects, like you just said, Ronda Rousey and other sports and other women around the world, and then even in the Olympics and all that, you see just how great an athlete they can be, and even better than the men. So there's no denying it, and NXT came around at the perfect kind of time. It was Triple H, and I mean, you can say what you want about Vince, but he might not be as open-minded, because Triple H definitely had some ideas here, and he was giving women, like we're going to see, an equal opportunity and a platform to actually put on a story. A lot of stories in the earlier days, they were not about being legit. It was a lot of body representation and that, and this is about like passion and about like aggression and about skill as well. So Triple H, I know I'm a fan of his, like as a wrestler, but also on a personal level, because the guy has vision for the future, and I know a lot of people feel like negative towards him because he's associated with WWE, but there's no denying that NXT is a positive for wrestling in general. The fact that it's opened its doors to many wrestlers, and as we're seeing, and we've heard in like recent reports, like even open to working with other promotions.
Yeah, no, totally. So, and you got to remember as well is the crazy thing about this. I'd been to a lot of wrestling shows up until this point, and trust me, it's a sad thing to say, but it's true. The women, they never really got people, especially the male audience, they were never really watching it particularly for the wrestling, let's say, and getting into it. This crowd, Matt, I mean, this was New York, which, is quite a fierce crowd, as everybody will find out at SummerSlam this year. But this was the first